Welcome back to another session. I hope that you were well. In today's session, I want to talk about the mind and how we are all prisoners of our mind, but more importantly, how we can set ourselves free. In the session prior, I made reference to and I made a statement that we are all prisoners of our minds. I also went further to state that um, you cannot help someone who does not acknowledge that they are in a prison. And even if you try, some people will not participate in their own rescue from said prison. Nonetheless, we are all prisoners to some extent or another. Some, live in more favorable uh, circumstances and conditions, and others less so. For some people, they are confined to life imprisonment, and for some other people, they are set free after a short duration and after much effort with regards to setting themselves free. If you have any depression tendencies or anxiety, worry, doubt that reoccurs regularly, that puts you in chains, it's important to understand that you can set yourself free. As the old spiritual saying, it's not my father nor my mother, it's not my brother nor my sister, it's me. It is me. Um, so it will come down to you. What I'm hoping to do is provide you with the rules of the game and the tools of the trade to set yourself free. One of the reasons why this has to be um, a self breakout or breakthrough is for one of many reasons that people do not resist change. People resist being changed, and therefore I'm hoping to create an opportunity for the desire to come from within because the desire has to come from yourself. The actions will have to come from yourself, and therefore the change will be something that you are responsible for. And any attempts to change you or to change you on the outside without first changing who you are on the inside will be futile. Think about it this way. I don't know about you, but in your room, in your home, in your house, even in your workplace, there's some form of climate control or air conditioning provided or central heating. There is an internal thermostat that regulates the temperature that you want to maintain on the inside. You need not bother about how cold it is outside or how hot it is outside. It might be -4 degrees or it might be 28 degrees centigrade. All you care about is maintaining that particular space at, say, 20 degrees. In the winter period, it means that the heating source has to raise the temperature up to 20 degrees and maintain the temperature at 20 degrees. In the summer, assuming the external temperature is 28 degrees, then it has to drop the temperature up to 20 degrees and maintain it at 20 degrees in order to ensure you actually have the desired internal temperature. In the winter, the temperature might drop further from -4 down to -5. The boiler or the heating source maintains the internal temperature. So as soon as the temperature drops to 19, there is a message sent to the heating system to say, increase the heat output, give us more heat. And as soon as the temperature exceeds 20, there is another message or signal sent to the heating source to say, stop giving us heat because we've reached the optimum temperature. Now the process works in the same way with cooling. Now this is a useful analogy to understand with regards to yourself. If you have any issues with depression, anxiety, worry, stress, unhappiness, and primarily if you're not living a life that you admire or that you would wish upon yourself, it indicates that despite what's going on external to you, the issue is not what's happening external, but the issue is what you've programmed yourself to accept. Now, this is a difficult thing to say. And so take this recognizing the entire context of what I'm trying to share, recognizing how many sessions I've covered previously. So this is the 39th session with regards to understanding depression and overcoming depression. So this is a building block, and the block continues beyond this session. You have to look back and connect all the dots. But you are responsible, primarily because you are the only person who can change your conditions, who can move to that point in your life and say, I do not want the internal temperature to be 20. I want it to be 22 or 23. In other words, you choose the comfort conditions you want to live in and you want to experience. Things can be chaotic around you. Things can be chaotic in your community, in your local area, in your country. But 1,000 may fall on your left and 10,000 on your right side. If you maintain the right temperature you want internally, then you will not be swayed by happenstance and things that occur outside of yourself. Yes, there will be some regulation, and your internal self-image would have to be reinforced whenever there is perhaps a knock on the door from intruders, or whenever there is a difficult moment in your life. But the key thing is, you get to regulate that temperature. Now, when it comes to depression, there is something that I said in the sessions prior, which is that we all have the ability to control our thoughts. We are not like animals that operate on instinct and their genetic code. We have intellectual faculties that allow us to choose, decide, ignore, or accept our environment. And so we can control our thoughts, but more importantly, we can also control and we can stand guard at the gates to our ears, our eyes, and what's around us. And by that process, we can regulate how we feel based on the thoughts we allow to consume our minds, or the thoughts we allow to be consumed in our minds. We can also control how we act, and therefore our behaviors. All of those actions form a self-image. So if you are in a state where you find yourself struggling regularly with regards to mental health issues, what that indicates is that the image you have of yourself in your subconscious mind is an image of someone who is either depressed, anxious, unwell, inadequate, lacking in their success goals, and therefore it's not what occurs externally or in your environment. The root cause of the issue you're struggling with is your image, your self-image. And therefore, to make a change, you have to go and deal with the root cause. And the reason I started this perhaps analogy is as follows. You can listen to myself speak, and you can listen to other people speak, and you can be motivated for a short period to change your life. And it would be the same as the temperature of the space dropping below the set temperature, perhaps particularly in this instance, you open the windows, and in the winter, the 20 degrees preset temperature drops to say 17. What happens automatically is that the heating system receives a signal and the temperature is brought back to where it should be, 20. Similarly, you might get something external, motivation, inspiration, a can-do experience where you move yourself away from your preset life and suffering, and you find that for a period of 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're thriving. You're not depressed, you're not anxious, but after a short while, you return back to where you've always been. We call this the snapback effect. You take a rubber band and you pull the rubber band and you hold it there and it stays where it is, providing you hold it. If you let go, it returns back to its preset position. So most people return back to where they are and they find they cannot overcome this challenge despite efforts and energy being expended. One of the reasons is because you haven't changed, you haven't altered your self-image. In your subconscious mind, there is an image you have of yourself. For most people have an image of, I'm a healthy person, I'm a happy person. I'm a person with a fulfilled life. I'm a person with a loving family and who expects and gives love. So they cannot act in a manner different to how they see themselves. And therefore their results reflect the image they have of themselves. Their self-concept, their self-identity, their self-esteem, their self-image is built around those thoughts and ideas that are positive. For other people who believe that they are inadequate, not deserving of love, unable to control their emotions, anxious, always worried, depressed, believe that they have mental health issues. All of these ways of describing your circumstances contribute to your self-identity and your self-image. So, whilst you might go to a workshop or a seminar and for a weekend you find you feel enthusiastic and you feel as though you've changed who you are because you've heard something new, it would only last for a short while. And the reason is simple. You cannot outperform your self-image. The image you have of yourself in your subconscious mind, you cannot outperform yourself. Now, 2 sessions ago, I made reference to 2 people who betrayed their masters. One was Judas and one was Peter. Judas committed what he considered to be an unforgivable act towards his master. But despite returning the money or throwing the money away, in his subconscious mind, he saw himself as someone who was not deserving of love. And so he hung himself. Peter, on the other hand, betrayed his master 3 times, just as the master predicted. But in his subconscious mind, he remembered himself as someone who loved his master. And despite having a lapse of judgment and making a mistake, his image of himself was one of someone who recognized that he deserved forgiveness. And more importantly, was willing to give himself grace. And so he forgave himself. And he went on to serve his master to the best of his ability. Now, the point of this is 2 people, different self-identities or self-images. And with you, if you're struggling, and this applies to any area of life, success, family, health, well-being, business, we all have an image in our subconscious of who we are. And we do not deviate from that image too far and for too long. And therefore, if you want to transcend your present circumstances and elevate yourself to a better place, you have to change the image. And you have to, in many ways, die to your old self and be born anew. Now, this process is a simple process. It simply requires that you sit down, pick up a piece of pen or a pencil, get a paper, and write down who you want to be. Describe it in as much as you can. You can draw on references from people you admire and people you esteem, people who are living a life that you wish you had. You don't have to be original in your creative process. You can just look around and choose the best people. And you describe that life. You describe yourself in the present tense. That becomes a goal. You review that goal regularly. You review, you play that in the screen of your mind, in your imagination, as often as you can, in the present tense. You allow your emotions to be connected to that experience. You see yourself in the future, healthy, happy, prosperous, successful, and living a fulfilled life. You repeat that regularly, spaced repetition. But each time you repeat it, you live it. Feeling is the secret. You live it, you feel it, you connect to the emotions that surround that experience. And by doing that regularly, you take an idea from your conscious mind and you plant that idea in your subconscious mind. And that idea goes to work in a way that you do not know and you need not know. You start to find that you're starting to dilute your old image of self and you're leaning towards a new self-identity based on a new self-image. And in a stunning way, you would find that you start to behave in a manner different to who you used to act like, because you're moving and you're changing the setting internally. You've changed it from a 20 preset temperatures Celsius to perhaps a 21. And therefore, when you start to achieve the result of someone who is with a new identity, you'd never snap back to the old self, because the old self is dead and gone, and there is only one new self. And you repeat this regularly. Now, you don't have to start with a goal that is not possible to achieve. You can start with a small goal. And it could start with something as simple as seeing yourself healthy, describing what health would look like, describing how you would feel. See yourself in your mind's eye, sharing with other people you care about and know how happy you are, how great you feel in this new period, and staying in that place. Really is that simple. Depression, especially on the mental side, is self-inflicted. It's not self-inflicted because there is no real suffering physically or even mentally or psychologically. It's self-inflicted by the fact that we give up the power to choose. We repeat the endless cycle of thoughts that do not serve us, and we do not pay a price for the life we want. We all have to pay a price. Success in life is the willingness to bear pain. The willingness to bear pain. You have to pick up your cross, and up the hill you go. And in a similar manner, in order to overcome depression, anxiety, mental health issues, you have to accept that there is some sacrifice you have to make. You're going to give something up. You're also going to give something to get what you want. The price has to be paid in full, and the price must always be paid in advance, and then the results come. So a simple question as I end today's session is, what are you willing to give up to get what you want? And the second question is, what are you willing to give to get what you want? You might be willing to give up the repetitive negative thoughts you have, the way you describe yourself, the way you associate your pain with something heroic, and you might be willing to give time to study, to practice, to meditate, to play this new image of yourself in your imagination. It will not come without work. The whole idea that you attract things by virtue of doing nothing is fanciful. By thoughts, what we want is created. Through feeling, it is sent to us. Through expectation and action, we receive it. Action is the highest expression of faith. So without works, all of your thoughts and your words are void. You have to act, and that means you have to pay a price. Now, I hope today's session has been useful.